these issues over the years. I'm really excited about this hearing. As all of you know, I'm convinced that we can do so much better on our retirement policies in this country. And the title of the hearing is Challenges in the Retirement System. So I know that today we're focused more on the defined contribution plans and specifically on private savings. But I will say we've got some other challenges that are big. The biggest of all, of course, Social Security in 2035, only being able to pay 80% of the benefit. That can't happen. Defined benefit plans, we've got a huge issue with multi-employer plans. And the answer to the question posed earlier by Senator Wyden, unfortunately, is in 5.5 years, I think PBGC goes under, maybe even sooner. And that's the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation that, for those listening, that's the federal program that guarantees these defined benefit plans, not just multi-employer plans, but all the defined benefit plans. That's a big deal. And so we've got to fix that. And the leading plans that are in the most trouble right now are the mine workers plan and then the Teamsters plan, which is the Central States plan. Those going under would cause the PBGC to go under. There's no question about it based on the analysis that we've seen. So we've got a subcommittee on this issue on retirement security. We plan to get back to holding hearings on that. Remember, at the end of the year, we had the select committee looking at it. We came close, but didn't quite get there. We got to get there now, and we got to ensure that does not happen. And again, it would be terrible for the beneficiaries, 90% cut if it did go under, but it's also terrible for the economy, for small businesses and others. So we're going to work on all that. We got 44,000 participants in Central States in Ohio alone, and it's an issue that Senator Brown and myself and others are focused on. Today, the focus more again on the defined contribution side, and we've got this opportunity with RISA. I think it's an important first step. I think we ought to move forward with RISA as we pass it, and I hope we can do that. One thing that's in RISA that's also very urgent, in fact, the most urgent thing of all, I suppose, that we could talk about today is this pension non-discrimination provision that Senator Cardin and I introduced. It's now part of RISA. Bottom line is about 430,000 individuals. These are individuals that have a defined benefit plan are at risk of losing their future benefits by the end of this year. Not many people are focused on it, but boy, it's important, and it's mostly older workers, and RISA does address that issue. So I don't know, Ms. Dudley, maybe you want to talk about it for a second. This passed out of the Finance Committee, as I recall, back at the end of 2016.
Right.
And since that time, since 2016, some of these workers now have their retirement at risk already. Why don't you talk a little about that and what should be done about it?
Thank you so much for that opportunity. This provision or this issue comes about because a plan makes a change for future participants. And so the people that remain in the plan over time become older and longer service. And so then they violate non-discrimination rules. And what the proposal would do would be to provide relief so that companies can continue to provide benefits to those people that are grandfathered in the plan.
Which is what they're doing now. Rather than freeze the plan.
Rather than freeze the plan and stop providing benefits. So that's how people could lose benefits and have lost benefits. In 2014, we actually did a survey to estimate what the impact could be. And at the time, it was hundreds of thousands of employees, potentially millions of employees, or in the millions. And over time, that has borne fruit. People have lost their benefits because of these rules. They're not allowed to accrue any further benefits for these older, longer service workers. And if we don't do it by the end of this year, it's a potential, as you said, another 430,000 employees could lose their benefits. And beyond that, every year that we don't fix this, every year, it's hundreds of thousands more people that could lose their benefits. And because people are getting older and they have longer service, more companies are impacted. So it's an urgent
this is another reason
situation
for us to move forward with RISA. In the meantime, Senator Cardin and I have also introduced other legislation that was talked about today, and I appreciate the comments from all the witnesses about it, but this is this broader retirement package. So we're all for RISA. We want to get it done. We think we need to go beyond RISA, as the chairman talked about, and build on that foundation. And we have 4 principal objectives in this plan. It's addressing, I think, the major concerns we now have on our private retirement side. One is to allow people who save too little to set aside more for their retirement. For instance, we have a new catch-up contribution for those over 60. And that comes because the latest data we have is that 48%, about half of baby boomers, my generation, have no retirement nest egg at all.
Right.
So no private savings at all. And so we got to give people a chance to save a little more, as one example. We also help small businesses to offer these 401ks. We talked a little about that earlier. We talked about the importance of getting RISA passed. This goes beyond RISA to provide an even more generous tax credit to small businesses. Why? Because when you look at the data, about 68% of people who work have access to a plan. Small businesses, it's about 40%. And among part-time workers, as Ms. Ruff will tell you, it's even worse. So we got to get more of these small businesses engaged. So we have a number of provisions to do that. We also have something to expand retirement savings for low-income individuals. If you look at the data on who's saving and who's not, lower-income individuals, makes sense, they don't have the disposable income, are not saving for retirement nearly as much as they have to and should. So we have an expansion of what's called the Savers Credit to do that. And then finally, to provide more certainty and flexibility for people in retirement. A lot of you know about the minimum required distribution rules, for instance. When you're 70 and a half, you got to take your money out of your retirement. That was put in place at a time when our longevity tables were a lot different. Now people are living longer. I just talked to someone this morning who is 70 and a half and still working.
Yep.
And he didn't know we had this provision there. He's very excited about it because he doesn't want to start taking his money out of retirement. He's still working.
Right.
And my dad was in that situation, and a lot of people are. We also say if you have under 100,000 bucks in your retirement plan, your 401k, say, you don't have to minimally distribute anything. If you have more than that, we're going to change the age from 70 and a half to 75. So there's some things like that. We also encourage longer-term lifetime savings rather than just taking a lump sum, which we think is also responsive to a specific problem right now we have in our retirement system as people are living longer. So again, I want to thank everybody for working with us on that. Everybody at the table has been involved in some way. There's one that I know Senator Wyden is very interested in, which is this student loan issue. That's part of our bill, too. And I think that's really important. It was talked about earlier. I know Ms. Tibbetts and others, Mr. Reed and others are supportive of that. I think it's really important. On the part-time workers, Ms. Ruff, can you talk just briefly about that, why that's so important, and talk about why AARP so strongly supports that provision?
Thank you very much. Part-time workers, there are about 27 million part-time workers, and many of them, and the majority of them, are women. And women generally are the lower wage earners as well. The result is when they do not have a chance to actually save for retirement, they do not have the retirement resources when the time comes to retire. And at this point, 58%, that is the amount of the retirement income that most women have compared with men. They also have longer lifespans. A lot of that comes because of lower wages and caregiving. AARP is very concerned about caregiving, the financial and the emotional costs of caregiving. And that is one of the reasons that we look at it from the financial and retirement security standpoint.
Well, thank you. And a number I have is that only 22% of part-time workers participate in a plan now.
Right, that
So
would be correct.
enormous opportunity here. And just to broaden the eligibility of 401ks to include long-term part-time workers would make a big difference in terms of those retirement savings numbers we talked about earlier. I have so many other questions. We have 50 different provisions in this bill, and again, many of you have been involved in those, and we thank you for that. And we want to work with you on getting RISA done, but also expanding what we're talking about here. And it's the backstop for so many people. Social Security, absolutely essential. It's the safety net. You got to have it. But it's tough to live on Social Security alone for a lot of people, impossible. So you need to have that private retirement savings as well. And although we've made some progress, back in 2001, by the way, Senator Grassley was chairman of this committee when the Portman-Cardin bill, the first bill, passed, and he's the one that shepherded through the Finance Committee. So he's got lots of experience in working on retirement policy himself over the years.